Okay, everybody, we're going to start with a little bit of top 20. I know some of you are thinking, but I've already mastered the top 20. Well, I'm going to show you some that you might be doing the slow way. And hopefully there's a few of you out there. I know if I made you raise your hands for scores that were below a 15, which would be basically below a C, there'd be quite a few hands. So I can't psychically know which ones you had the most trouble with, but I do know which ones are the most missed ones. So let's go through a couple here. First off, this brings up my favorite saying: if you can factor it, you should. So everybody, at this point, if you haven't already, grab some scratch paper, and you can use that same scratch paper for when you take the real top 20 in just a couple minutes here, once it's released to you. But for right now, I'll just do a couple practice with you, and you having scratch paper is super important. Okay, so you're going to factor this. And I know you might be thinking, how on earth do you factor that? Well, you need to just set up two sets of parentheses like this. But I'm going to give myself an extra chance to know what one of those factors is by factoring the bottom first. Think about it. I'm going to set this up on purpose so something will cancel, right? So if I know this one's x plus 6 and x minus 6, because that's how you do difference of squares factoring, then do you get it's pretty likely that we have a x plus 6 or an x minus 6 as one of the factors on the top? I bet you can see that, can't you? Okay, so then next, I'm looking to see if there's anything in all three of these that can be factored out. And at first I was thinking of 3, but 3 doesn't go into 14, so nope, there's no GCF. So then you go 3x and x, and let's see if I give you a moment here, if you can factor this thing properly. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second while you give that a try. Okay, so I hope that you know that when you put in these numbers here, this one and this one, that they have to multiply to 24. Well, 24 is, there's actually a game called 24 because it's got so many factors, and the game involves you trying to make a 24 with a whole bunch of different numbers. So anyway, 24 could be many things, but I'm pretty certain one of these has got to be a 6. Now, why do I know it's not here? I want you to just think about that for a minute. If there was a 6 there, then that would mean a 3 would be able to factor out, but we know a 3 can't factor out of this. So therefore the 6 cannot be there. Now, if you'd have just tried it by multiplying it all out, you'd have realized, 6 can't be there. But I thought you might be entertained by knowing why I knew the 6 couldn't be there. Okay, so the 6 has to be here, and then the other number has to be a 4, because 6 times 4 is 24, right? And then I just have to be strategic about how to set up my plus and my minus. So I know that I want negative 14 in the middle. So then I want a fairly big negative number here. So I'm going to make the 6 be negative. That way when it multiplies here on the outside, I'll get negative 18, and oh, look at that, it's working out perfect. So negative 18x and positive 4x for these two makes negative 14x. So yay, it factored right. And now I can cancel these two. All right, so there's a word on factoring things that are kind of complicated. But if you can factor it, I hope in your head you just said you should. Okay, on this one, some of you guys are still doing it the super slow way, which is to multiply it all the way out, set it equal to 0, and then just engage the 16-part quadratic formula, and that is slow, so slow, terribly slow. So I'm going to take the square root on both sides, and then I need the absolute value of x minus 3 is equal to the square root of 17. And from there, you should be able to finish this. I'm going to pause for a moment while you finish this problem from here. It should look kind of familiar, you know? If you'd have gotten good at this early, do you get how that would have helped in your most recent test? Okay, so here's what I hoped you did. You go over here and say x minus 3 equals square root of 17. Once I realized that this first equation was exactly the same as what's written, except you drop the absolute value bars, It became so easy. You just copy what you see there without the absolute value bars. And then this equation is always exactly the same as the other one, except you have a negative. And frankly, you can put it on either side. But putting it over here makes more sense because putting a negative on the left side means you'd have to distribute it and it'd get complicated and then you have a negative x. You don't want to have to deal with that. So then if I put it all together, my final answer here would be x, and then I'm adding 3 to both, right? And so then I have positive 3, and then one of them is plus and one of them is minus the square root of 17. And that's how I get my final answer. Could you have gotten a quadratic formula? Sure, but it's a lot slower. All right, and the last thought here of ones that kids often can do but have the slow way. Here's the fast way. Multiplying everything by 3. And to save a whole step, multiplying everything by 8 at the same time. Why? Because look at how it cancels so nice. The 8's cancel. And then the 3's cancel here. And then I have got 9a plus 24 equals 8. And then well, in our district, probably any 7th grader should be able to solve that. Subtract 24, divide by 9. Okay. Let's just do one last one that I know gives people the heebie-jeebies, and that's this. Imagine you have done the quadratic formula. We just got done with the test on quadratics. See how this would have been handy to know beforehand? That, the square root of 8, could be simplified down to root 4 and root 2, which is really 2 root 2. And now it's really negative 6 plus and minus 2 root 2 all over 10. That's your first step. Now, everybody, see if you can do this one. Let's pause for a minute. Give this one a shot. Okay, I hope you factored the top part. The 2 comes out, and you got negative 3 plus and minus square root of 2 all over 2 times 5, because that's what 10 is, 2 times 5. 2's cancel. There's your answer. Negative 3 plus and minus the square root of 2 all over 5. That's called the simplest radical form. On the Schoology quiz, it'll have you enter it. That's one of your blanks, that's the next blank, and that's the third blank. And the way you type this in is SQRT parenthesis 2. Okay, so midpoint is just the average of the x's and then the average of the y's. And I think let's save enough time for you to actually get this thing done and have plenty of time left. So that's all the time I want to spend, and it's time to take that top 20, and then after that, you're going to go over your Chapter 5 tests and have time for corrections. And yay for you, no new homework other than going back and looking and seeing if you have anything missing in the grade book. This is your chance to take any of those zeros, or maybe it's an old top 20, and do it over. Have a great day.